You're aware of Leveson's recommendations today. Do you support them, and do you think he's listened to people like you?
Very much. I think that it's an extremely judicious report. I think that Lord Justice Leveson has actually been quite clever in saying what we want is a self-regulatory body, which is what the press themselves have been saying, but that that self-regulatory body, in order to have public confidence and in order to ensure that self-regulation this time works, that must be underpinned by statute. In other words, the body must be seen to have legal authority and to have genuine powers.
Why do you think that part is so key?
I think it's key because we have never had in the past anything other than a kind of cosy relationship of editors scrutinising other editors. And that's something which Lord Justice Leveson has recognised. He's made it very clear that he thinks that this body should not be composed of serving editors. In fact, there is a very, very, very limited role for serving editors. So that, I think, is extremely important.
But you can have an independent body, a truly independent body, without legislation.
Oh, you can. That's absolutely right. But it seems to me that if you have an independent body which is not underpinned by regulation, which is what many of the victims of press intrusion have been arguing for quite a long time, then very, very gradually that body is likely to start to develop a rather too cosy, a rather too close relationship with the press, and over time I think we will be back to the position we were in before.
So in effect, things won't change?
Absolutely, yeah.
The Prime Minister has a problem with this regulation. He doesn't want a new law to have to be passed. What would you say to him?
I would say to him that I think he is very much mistaken. I think he should listen not only to the voices of those who have been the victims of the press, but that he should listen to the voices of the National Union of Journalists, who are in favour of some sort of statutory underpinning to this regulation, and that he should listen to all those MPs who are of the same view. In fact, I think it is probably true to say that there is a majority in Parliament which is opposed to the point of view which the Prime Minister has chosen to take. I mean, the Prime Minister makes a great show of saying that he agrees with very much of what is in Lord Justice Leveson's report, but he thinks it can be achieved without legislation. Well, I've just explained why it seems to me that that really will not work and is not good enough.
Because things will drift back
Absolutely.
to as they were before.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
What do you feel when you know that he's read your name out and you're an example of what he's trying to fight against, yet he will not press for a new law?
Well, I would say to him that he should remember what he said when he gave evidence to Lord Justice Leveson. When he gave evidence, he said that what emerged from the report must be something which worked as far as the press was concerned. It must be something which worked as far as politicians were concerned. But, crucially, it must also be something which worked as far as victims were concerned. And it must be something in which they had confidence. And it's quite clear that the vast majority of the country agree. I think between 70 and 80%, according to recent opinion polls, feel that there should be some kind of legally constituted body which oversees self-regulation.
If he wins the day, wins the argument that he's put out today, how will you feel? Will you feel let down by him?
I will certainly feel let down. I think it will be a complete disaster. I was very struck by the fact that almost the first words which Lord Justice Leveson said when he gave his press conference at lunchtime today were that this is the 7th report which has been issued in 70 years as a result of public concern about abuse of power by the press. Nothing has changed in those 70 years, so this is, I think, the opportunity to make sure that we are not in the position that we have been recently ever again.
What do you suspect the Prime Minister's motivation is for trying to avoid this part of the recommendation?
Well, I'm sure he would like everybody to feel that he is a genuine supporter of press freedom and that the freedom of the press should not be shackled in any way. I don't believe that what Leveson is proposing would have the effect of shackling the press. Indeed, I think that it would give the press greater confidence in themselves and a greater sense of pride in themselves as a profession. It is, I think the Prime Minister leaves himself open to the accusation that what he is doing is simply, once again, as too many Prime Ministers have done in the past, is bowing to illegitimate pressure from a body which does not want to have its power curtailed in any shape or form.
Do you think, let us assume that Leveson's recommendations are implemented in full. If they were, do you think what happened to you could happen in those circumstances?
I think it would be very, very much more difficult for what happened to me to happen in those circumstances because we would have a body which did have genuine oversight over the operations of the press in a way which the Press Complaints Commission was never able to do and in fact never intended to do. And the powers of this body would be such, I think, that the members of the press would be very, very reluctant to step out of line.
You were, and it's well publicised that you were well compensated for the terrible things that were written about you. So that is proof, isn't it, that laws do exist already without new laws being passed to protect people like you?
Yeah, but as Lord Justice Leveson himself said, law is not the final answer. One cannot possibly legislate for everything that the press have been shown to be doing. And there must be a system where the press are held to account by a body which they have agreed to be part of and which they respect and whose rulings they are prepared to abide by.
A body with teeth, in other words.
Precisely.